All right, real quick conversation about how I'm rotating everything. So I've already created my geometry array here, and I've got a timeline connected to my rotate actors event. So within the timeline, I'm going to get every actor within my geometry array, and then we will use the index to go ahead and grab the appropriate rotation value. And then we're doing a lerp, a lot of lerps in this little project. The lerp is just going to go from whatever the value currently is to its final value of -180. And the reason it's -180 is because I imported it backwards. So anyway, that's how it has to be. We're going to go ahead and make a rotator where I'm modifying the Z value. And then we're setting the relative rotation. So this is just a 0 to 1 curve here, going from the first value to the second value. And once that is done, we have out of our timeline, once this is finished, then I'm going to go ahead and kick off my 2 Flutter events. And we'll talk about the Flutter events here probably in the next video. But so that's how this is set up, and it's pretty straightforward. So the other one is the, where is it? The letters. So with the letters, there's a couple things that are happening. The letters are all children of this logo letters studios. So if we take a look at that, nothing's showing up. Maybe if I go to wireframe. Yeah. So it's just a plane, right? Little plane, and currently I think actually the material is invisible. So this is just a piece of geometry. And then all of the letters, they are actually invisible. All these guys here. Let's see if I come over. Visibility, yep. So they're all turned off. So the way this is set up is, I don't even know if it's, let me see if I can show you real quick. Right. Okay. So they are all children of this plane here, and they are all set to being invisible by default. You can see they're offset just because of that refractive plane there. So I'll set them back to invisible. We'll go back to the timeline or the event graph. So the first thing I do is get all the letters that are in the array that we populated earlier, and we set the visibility to on. And then we go through and we rotate the letters, and then we have a logo reveal. So each of these is an update, and the letters are going to rotate basically the exact same way as the geometry up here was rotated, except we're going from 0 to -90, 0 being perpendicular to the camera, and the -90 is rotated so that we can see it fully from the front view there. Once again, pipe that into the z-axis, which is the up-down vector, setting the relative rotation. And then at the same time, we have this parameter on the material. So if I go to, where is it? This guy, I'll clear my searcher. So I'm going to go to the material instance and then to the parent itself. And here we have this parameter, which is going to be logo reveal. And if I set this up to 1, you can see that Studios becomes more and more obvious. Just go ahead and pipe it in. So these letters here, they all rotate in. And then this plane is kind of the parent, and that's where we're just fading in the Studios part. So I'll show you what all that stuff looks like here in context. So here our actors begin to rotate. They all settle into their final positions. The particles do their thing. And then Imagendary becomes visible and rotates in, and then the Studios fades in as well. And again, this is driven by one channel of the timeline, and then the fade in is driven over here as we're setting the scalar parameter called logo reveal on the material. I realize I forgot to break down how this material works beyond the behavior of the parameter here. So this right here acts as a mask. So if I set this to 0, you can see the Studios goes away, and if it goes to 0.5, obviously we're, as mentioned before, we're blending in. So the way this works is this generated band basically just makes a stripe. And I've got some parameters here that are changing the width and the sharpness and the offset so that it is a white stripe over where Studios happens to be here in the texture. And then with this 1 - x node, I am inverting it. So now everything up here is white, and that one strip is black. And then we're just adding in whatever the value is here from this parameter. So as this parameter creeps up to something like 1, we're going to be hopefully overwriting all this black data with white data. And then once we do the multiply against this texture, the Studios comes in. So that gives us the ability to have some of the texture visible, which is speaking to all the letters, and then For studios, that's eased in here by just doing a curve into this parameter. So that's how that all works. And let me just kind of, we'll start previewing this node. And you can see that when this is one, there's still a little bit of a black stripe here. There's another node that you can add. I believe it is called saturate. And what it does is it clamps the values between 1 and 0. So if I add 1, well, this should get rid of that little remaining black area. But anyway, it doesn't really matter. It looks fine in the final result, and that is really all I care about. So that's how this works using this generated band. I use these kinds of things all the time whenever I need a mask for a specific area that I can either move around or fade in or fade out or whatever. It's very useful.